Hey guys, so I want to come back and do part 3 of the keg fermentation. So kind of looking at all the different parts from fermenting, transferring, and now the fun part for everybody is cleaning. Seems like that is a big part of this hobby as well, and probably for most people it's the part we probably dislike the most, whether that is bottling and cleaning bottles or cleaning kegs or whatever it is. So just going to guide you through my process of what I've done and try to make it a little bit easier or user-friendly for me, less manual labor type of thing. So I have built my own keg cleaner here. I did have some of these parts in hand. So some of the things I like to do in my brewery is to use things I already had. So when I moved into this house, there was already a pond here, which I've since gotten rid of, but there was a pond pump here. Unfortunately, the labels and stuff are gone off, as I can't tell you what exactly the horse is. I believe it's a third or quarter horse. Doing a quick search on like Harbor Freight, that type of stuff, you're probably looking at about 50 or 60 bucks for something similar. You could do the, I believe it's the Keg Blaster. I believe More Beer carries that, and that's about 70 bucks. The more common one that you hear a lot of folks using is the Mark Keg Cleaner. That I believe runs around 100 depending on where you're looking at that. So I was going to take you through, you might have some of these parts, maybe a utility style pump, submersible pump, maybe you can use that. I'll also take you through the floating dip tube. Yeah, I picked up some new kegs just recently. Thanks Dave from Big Dog Brewing, appreciate that. He found a guy on Marketplace who was selling some, so I picked up some with him. So I'll tell you, kind of take you through what I do with mine, and then kind of take you through the cleaning process. That's been one of the big questions I've gotten through this process, through the comments, is people have talked about how much cleaning does it take. But I guess when you really look at it, in terms of cleaning a fermenter, whether you're talking about being in a bucket, glass carboy, one of the plastic style, PET style fermenters, or fermenting in a keg, there's cleaning to be done either way. For this, it's pretty manual type of stuff that you don't have to really worry about. I'm not having to put my arm in there. It's basically spray it out, get the heavy organics out of there as much as I can with just a hose, or if it's wintertime in the house, spray it out on the inside. And then it's basically on top of this keg washer, which I'll show you what I have and how I go through that. And basically let it run for 5 or 10 minutes, rinse it, let it dry, and you're good to go. So for me, it's taken actually a lot of the work out. So carboys, trying to get in there with that scrub brush and trying to get all of that krausen ringer on the top, that was always a pain. So this has really kind of helped me out. So depending whether you want to build, do a DIY, or if you want to do a purchase and just have it set, that's really kind of up to you what you have for parts at your house. But if this is kind of the way you want to go with this, I think it's been easier for me. And this is something I can kind of do during a brew day. So I've got the brew going and I can do keg cleaning at the same time, because it's kind of a set it and forget it for a little while, and I can kind of go back and forth, and I can get a couple of things done at the same time. So but today is keg cleaning day, so I'll kind of take you through the process that I have, and we'll kind of go from there, and then we'll touch on the floating dip tubes, and we'll kind of complete the video series on that, and we'll talk about a couple other things as we finish up. So thanks for hanging in with me, and if you guys have questions, comments, anything, leave them in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, we'll get into the keg washer now. All right, as I said a minute ago, this is just a simple submersible pump. It is a pond pump. Again, it's probably a third to quarter horse, something along those lines. Probably, based on what I'm seeing, third and quarter horse run somewhere in that 2,500 to 3,000 gallons per hour-ish. Then what I've done is taking a piece of PVC. So this is the same type. If you went to Home Depot, they have them pre-cut for you already. This is let me just double check. This is Schedule 40. So I'll get on this side so you can see all the information on the side. So it's a 1-inch piece of PVC, 2 foot in length. I put a cap on it, so to get you a good look. Drilled some holes all around the top. And then at the bottom, I glued a fitting on here, and that's got a male thread end that comes off of it. And then this is the same type of hosing that you typically will find on ponds. So it's a flexible style hose that fits right on top of this. So you just slip on type of situation, and I just put it on with a worm clamp. And then I've also added this piece here, so this is just a threaded end on this side that goes in. So I just drilled a hole,
and basically just enough that it was tighter than this, and then just basically used the threads and screwed it right into the PVC. There's nothing holding in. You probably could have done whether like a cement or like a silicone or something like that. I haven't any problems with it because it's submerged anyways. And then just your flared end here, piece of beverage tubing out to your typical flared end, your screw-on nut, so you can put both your liquid ends for a ball lock or pin lock, depending on what you're using. These two pieces are what the actual, this is just pieces of metal I had laying around. It's actually an old piece of tent, and this just goes on top of the bucket, and I'll show you that here in a second. And then this is my adapter for my carboy cleaner. So if I'm going to be cleaning carboys, I basically did the same thing at the end, no changes, just instead we're down to a piece of 1 inch. So I'll give you the information on the side there so you can see it. Actually, wrong side, smart guy here. There we go. So I'll give you some information on that and what you have there. So again, it's just the same type of stuff. If you go to Home Depot, they have them pre-cut already for you. And then I just drilled holes in the side of it so it sprays out the side. And then I just left the top open so you get more flow out the top. And then just a simple 5-gallon bucket. I cut a hole in the side for the, brain farting here, for the AC plug to go out the side there. So just getting the plug out of the side of the pump out to the side there. And then all we basically do is I take these two, they sit on top. I'll have that port from my pump comes out through the top. Keg can sit right on top of this, so it washes up through, and then the water comes right directly back down into that. So I'll get this kind of set up so you can see the process through it. But again, if you have the parts at home, this makes a pretty cheap keg washer. If you have something like that, I think that's probably the big question. If you have a submersible pump already, this is the way to go. If you don't, then I think I probably would buy that keg blaster on I think it's Kegland, I think makes it, if I'm saying that correctly, I believe. But More Beer has it, and I think I just looked it up. It was $69, $70, something like that. So that would be worth it to me if I didn't have that already. So this is a dual use for me. This is the same pump that I use to run my chiller water out of the pool in through my Cuss tricoil chiller. So this is a dual use pump for me. So it was already here, didn't cost me anything. So a couple pieces of PVC, those fittings, and a couple pieces of metal that I had sitting around in a 5-gallon bucket I already had. So it really didn't cost me more than about $10 to put this thing together. But again, that's up to you in terms of if you have the pump or not. That pump is the big cost for this type of thing. So, all right, let me get this all together and we'll kind of go through the process here. All right, so this is looking in the keg after fermentation, and I pulled the beer out. So I don't know how well this is showing up. I know lighting's not perfect here, so give you a little bit of idea what type of krausen I have on the inside. So what I found the easiest thing, just dump out what's left in there. Take a hose, I got myself a hose right here, spray the inside of it, get the heaviest of the stuff out, and then start the cleaning process. So I'll take you through that and show you what I got. See in there or not, I'm not sure. My lighting's not good enough to be able to see in there, but yeah, probably not gonna be able to see it. But that takes majority of the krausen off. Dump this out, and then we'll get the pump set up and start the cleaning. Then turn it on.
flexible dip tube, floating dip tube, just stays right in there and it runs the fluid right through it. So I let this run
10 minutes, something like that. I've got all these kegs to clean today. So 2 of these are brand new. I'm going to break them down and do a real good cleaning on them. I just got them. And then we'll go from there. So from this point, let it clean, pull it off there when it's done, spray it with my hose that's right there, turn them upside down, let them air dry. Pull the flexible dip tube off and let that air dry as well, and it's ready for the next brew. So not an awful lot of manual labor. So folks that are asking about how much work it is to clean, it really is not that much. So I think it's easier than cleaning a fermenter, at least to me. Carboy, brush, all that type of stuff is a pain in the butt. Cleaning it in, chance of dropping something. So for what it's worth, I like it and it works for me. So if it helps you out, hopefully it works for you. That's PBW in there, 100 and probably 10 degree water, something like that. It's probably overfilled it a little bit, but that's all right. It's the nice thing about doing it outside. It can just kind of go as it pleases. All right, so this is a new keg that I just got, new to me. Again, thanks, Dave. So what a lot of them you'll find is that you can slide a deep socket right over the top. This one is 11/16, I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah, this is 11/16. What a lot of mine posts are like that. The other one I got, it's much bigger. So it's this one I believe is 3/4. So depending on what you have, what I'm going to do is pop that guy off, and I'm going to swap this out, get them cleaned up. The other thing you'll find, this is just simply how the dip tube comes out if you've never done this before. A lot of times this O-ring needs to be changed over, swapped out. These will get, as you tighten them up, they'll get a little tear in them and you'll get leaks through here. So it's always a good idea to change these out. But go along with the idea, I am going to swap it out for the floating dip tube. So before I do any of that, I'm going to take these apart, clean these all out. Again, let these soak because these are new to me. Anytime I get a new one, I'll take these apart, take out, if you can see right up, and let's see if it'll focus. Maybe, probably not. So right inside here, get a pair of needle nose pliers or a screwdriver, pop that out. The poppet's right in here, spring loaded. Pop those out. That poppet will come out. That has an O-ring on the inside of it as well. I don't know if maybe it'll pop out for me right now. Yep, there you go. So this O-ring sometimes, depending on wear and tear, this one's actually in really nice shape. Actually, it's good shape overall. But get these apart, clean them up. This is actually really, I'm surprised. A lot of times they don't look this nice. So the guy that we got these from obviously did a nice job keeping these in good shape. So the big thing that you're looking at is, if you see it through here, that is the new dip tube that will go in right here, and then your post goes right back over the top of that, and then that dip tube sticks down in there. The plastic tubing then connects to that, and then that is your floating dip tube as it goes through there. I will link another video, Mike, over at Bitter Reality Brewing. If you haven't checked out his channel, great stuff. He puts out a ton of content. I think it's at least a video a week. I don't know how he has time to do it, but he does a great job. He just got finished with a 4-part series on floating dip tubes and the type of floating dip tubes are out there. There's the float it or flout it. I'm not sure how do you say it. It's got a actual. It looks like the. It's basically a mesh fitting that goes over the top of the ends on this. I think it's like 300 or 400 micron. So these are $17 a piece, $16.99 on More Beer. I bought 6 of these. I got to buy a couple more because I'm swapping over all of my kegs. Every keg that I'm going to have, I'm taking the regular dip tube out and putting floating dip tubes on, so that way every one of my kegs can be a fermenter when I want it to be, and I can be drawing the clearest beer out of it when it's a serving keg. So it adds flexibility for me. So but Mike went through all kinds of the different styles out there, so I will link that below in the description so you can check that out. It's not that much more expensive. I think $24 or $25 for the extra filters. I think Kegland has a filter you can actually attach to the bottom of these, so you've got a actual, let me see if I can get it open here and actually show you the different parts. So you get your flexible tube. Here's the floating end, and that tube attaches here, so this is the other end, so that you have the one piece of the dip tube goes in here. Floating dip tube goes on that end of it, and then you got your tubing comes off, and then tubing attaches here. And then Mike was showing, I believe it's Kegland, and I apologize if I've got it wrong, Mike. You can tell me in the comments if I'm messing this up. But it attaches a filter attaches here, because this is basically your in now at this point. So you can put a filter on that as well, so it can attach to this style. If you already have this style, you can attach it. A couple of different attachments that they have there. So for me, it works, but I'll just kind of take you through, and basically that's kind of attaching a floating dip tube to that. So this line goes in here, come up underneath, and then you can detach that, clean them all out. This line attaches to this on the other end, and then that keeps you up. So this floats at the top. This keeps you below the fluid level of the beer, and you're pulling the clearest beer. So I am going to, I had some people talk, what if you ferment and then serve out of the same vessel? I'm looking, anybody got thoughts on what type of beer to try? What would be the most sensitive beer? I've heard people today, like an American light lager would be the most sensitive for, is it autolysis, I believe is the correct word. So yeast cell death. So when the beer sits on top of the yeast cake for too long. So I was thinking about doing a experiment, make a 10-gallon batch and go 2 batches, both of them ferment in a keg. One would get transferred into a serving keg, one would stay in the fermentation keg, and then put it on gas and actually serve out of it and see what I get. But I'm looking for the style that people think would be the worst style to do that with, in the sense of the most sensitive to it. So it doesn't make sense. Do I even need to transfer? I don't know. That's the autolysis is the big thing that people talk about. And a lot of times my beers will sit in my kegs for, a month, 2 months, depending on what type of beer style it is and what time of year it is. So I'm interested to see what people thoughts are on that. I've always transferred because I've heard of autolysis being bad, and gotta stay away from it. It'll ruin your beer if it sits on the yeast cake. So I'm interested to see what people's thoughts are on that. So leave it in the comments if you got a thought on what type of beer I could do that with that would be the most sensitive to that. And I may try that here this fall and give it a shot. I have a light lager I call Days That End in Y. It's just an easy drinking, kind of a macro style American light lager. Might try it with that if people think that would be the best one, or if there's something else that you think is out there. I wouldn't mind trying it as an experiment and see what's going on, and kind of go from there. So, all right, that is the floating dip tube and how I hook up to the kegs and get those set to go. So I still have that keg cleaning. I got to go get that thing rinsed and get the next keg on and get ready to go. All right, so this is after cleaning and then a quick rinsing. So there's your cut off dip tube for the floating dip tube. Well, this is going to focus or not, but all the crousings off, and that's just simply basically just taking a hose, spray it with 10-15 seconds, dump it out, let it run in the machine. And I've got the second one running now. So like I said, 10 minutes, and then I apologize, I'm going to move around here a little bit, bring it over to my drying station, really high-tech drying station here. Basically what I'll do is take it, put on that, take my floating dip tubes, hang it out, and then I let them sit for a day, and then I'll come back and close it back up, put it back together, put the top back on it. I'll hit the O-ring with the keg glue and close them back up, make sure they're good and dry, there's nothing in it, and then it's ready for the next time. So I'll have my stack of kegs sitting in here ready to go. So that's the cleaning process. Can't be much easier than that, I don't think. And I think it's easier than cleaning fermenters. So, all right, well, I think that is just about everything in terms of floating dip tubes, cleaning, transferring, all that type of stuff. So hopefully this was helpful to anybody that's interested in getting involved with it, or if you already do it, maybe there's something here that I did that makes sense for you, maybe makes your process easier. Again, as always, if you see anything in here that I can do better, let me know. Love to hear and love to learn from other folks. As usual, thanks to all our sponsors. Our newest one, Yakima Valley Hops, and all of our other sponsors as well. Beer and Wine Hobby, Brewing America, 5 Star Chemical. Thanks a bunch for all of you guys helping out, as always, as we go through it. Oh, one more, forgot, Imperial Yeast. All right, guys, hope everybody's having a great one. Sláinte.